Over the years, millions of people have been educated, amused, and slightly insulted by my This Is Why You Suck at Guitar series, but there remains one great question that has never been answered. What the heck did I play during that rippin' intro? This. Well, hey there, Internet Land, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. Many of you guys first found my channel through my This Is Why You Suck at Guitar lesson series, and each one of those kicks off with that awesome 8-bit graphic made by my buddy Jacob Long, along with some vicious ripping made by my hand fingers. Whenever I decided to do a series with a title as obnoxious as This Is Why You Suck at Guitar, I knew I'd have to do an intro that was equally over the top and obnoxious, so I grabbed my 7-string, I tuned it down to drop A and recorded a bunch of big chugging stuff on it, and then just did several different takes of me improvising some rip and shred in the neighborhood of A minor over it until I found one that I thought sounded pretty cool. And on today's lesson, you're gonna learn it. But first things first, let's hear it again at stepdad speed. And as always, full tabs for this lesson are available over on my Instagram page at Ben Eller Guitars. Just search for hashtag Weekend Wankshop 267. Find the tabs and start shredding today. Downloadable tabs, backing tracks, bonus lessons, and a whole lot more are available to everybody who supports my channel over on the Patreon page at patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. I also do all kinds of other fun stuff on there, like put up polls asking you guys what you'd like to see here on the channel. This very episode of Weekend Wankshop, for example, is a result of a vote that I put up the other day. So go over there and join the Patreon page and you can start driving this channel in the direction that you want to see. Patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. Okay, so all of that high-speed hogging that I did there is just some stuff I improvised in the key of A minor. And what this means is that we're only going to be using natural notes throughout this whole thing. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. We're going to give you guys a note-by-note breakdown of the lick first, and we're going to go over some of the finer technical details later. First, I'm going to show you guys the scale pattern that I was using here, which some of you guys might think of as being based on like an F Lydian shape, since F seems to be the lowest note in the pattern that I use. But you got to remember, it's not the scale shape that dictates harmony, it's what you're playing it over. And considering I was running all this stuff over just a big old fat, A power chord, it gives it all that kind of A minor tonality. So this is based around Every Shredder's Delight, a 3-note per string scale pattern, and it starts off here on the D string, fret number 15. That's the F note. On that string, we're going to have 3 notes, F, G, and A. It's right on the dots right there, 15, 17, and 19 for all you tappers. On the G string here, we're going to play B, C, and D, or 16, 17, 19. When you get to the B string, play the exact same shape that you just played, just move up 1 fret, so that you're playing E, F, and G, or frets 17, 18, and 20. And then lastly here on the high E string, we're going to play A, B, C, which is frets numbers 17, 19, and 20. So your entire scale pattern you're going to be using for this lick is just like this. And descending. So the very first thing here in the lick is to start off with the B string on fret number 20. And you're going to give that a little bit of a muted rake. I'm getting that muted rake just by putting my right hand here across the strings, kind of right in between the 2 pickups over the middle single coil right here, and just raking through them. You got to be sure to apply some pressure to get that good strong rake sound. But then the pick will make contact with the B string, and you're going to bend that up 1 whole step to the root note A. And don't forget to goose that thing up with some big old juicy vibrats. Ain't no friend of mine unless you can shake that rope. So after you grab that bend and do some vibrato, hold it at the top of the bend for a split second, and then let it kind of drop down like this. After that bend falls down, we're going to play down this sequence through the scale that involves a little bit of legato. Check it out. So right there I started off on the B string on the G note up here, the highest note on that string. What I'm going to do is walk down that scale, G, F, and E. Now you'll notice after I got down to the lowest note on the string, I did a little hammer on and pull off with the middle note on that string. Then you're going to grab the next note in the scale on the G string right here. That's your D note. Then go back to the E note you were just on the B string. Okay, so now you have this. Then what you're going to do is play that same descending idea, only this time on the G string. So we're going to walk down its notes, D, C, and B. And after I get to the B note, I'm going to do a little hammer on and pull off with the C. That's what you should have so far. Then what you're going to do is reach up to the next note in the scale on the D string here, the A note. Go back to the B note you were just on the G string. And then walk down the 3 notes of the D string. The A, G, and F. It's worth noting that this is all very free time, so don't necessarily be trying to find like where the 16th note pulse is or anything like that. This is all just free time, ridiculous wanking, so don't really worry about trying to keep it super metric. And then we get to the really fast Paul Gilbert style alternate picking run. If I slow it down, it sounds like this. If that sounds like something you heard on Paul Gilbert's intense rock videos, it's probably because it is. Good artists innovate, great artists steal. So this is all based around that 3-note per string pattern that we talked about earlier, and it's all alternate picked. There's no hammer-ons or pull-offs, there's no economy picking or sweeping in here. Nothing but just down, up, repeat. All right, we're gonna start off here on that D string F note, the fret number 15. Remember on that string we just played the dots. And we're gonna play it right up that string, just 3 notes in a row. Down, up, down. Next, go to the next note on the G string here, the B note on fret number 16. Then what we're gonna do is retreat back to that D string and play down and up its notes. So I walked up the D, single note on the G, going down the D string, and back up, okay? It's kind of like the Paul Gilbert lick. And then next go onto the G string and play all 3 of its notes here, B, C, and D, 16, 17, and 19. Next you're going to play the exact same sequencing idea but begin on the G string on the B note here, so that's fret number 16. Now again, we're going to play the same concept, so play up those 3 notes, grab the first note on the next string, which is the E note here on the B string. Then we're going to go down the 3 notes and up the 3 notes on the G. So that's, and then finish with the 3 notes on the B string, E, F, and G. So far you should have this. And it's at this point that I deviate a little bit away from that pattern and play this lick. Now what that was is the first note on the high E string here, the 17, played down the 3 notes on the B string, G, F, E, and back up them, okay? And then we're gonna play up the 3 notes on the high E string, A, B, and C. So that makes the entire alternate picking sequence this. And that's what finishes out this entire thing. You're going to start off here by playing the B note on the high E string, that's fret number 19. Give that a half step bend and let it down. Then come back here and play the A. Then we're going to go to the B string right here and grab the G note on fret number 20, back to the A note, and then go back to that 20th fret B string, the exact same spot that this all started, and give that another whole step bend and some juicy vibrats. Start with the bend and the letdown, the sequence, the legato thing, then the fast alternate picking. And then ending with those sexy bends on the high strings. So now that you got the lick down, let's talk about some of the technical details about it and some of the things that you can use from this to improve your own playing. One of the first things that I want to talk about here is the fact that this is based around the key of A minor, which as I mentioned earlier only uses the natural notes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Now one thing I'm always telling my students is that you should practice in this key as much as humanly possible. That and its, kind of sister key, the relative major of C major, which is the same notes, just starting at C instead. But you should spend as much time as you can in those two keys, because if you learn them really well, you can learn all of the natural notes. So by spending time every day jamming and improvising in those keys, being conscious about what notes you're playing on and stuff, you can get to where you learn every single A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A across the entire neck of the guitar. And think about it this way. If you know where this A note is, don't you also know where A flat and A sharp are as well? If you know that this is a D note right here, you also just accidentally learned D flat and D sharp, right? So whenever you learn all the natural notes, it's not just useful for playing in those keys. It's useful for playing in all of the keys, because it's going to help you unlock the entire fretboard way fast. There's also some great stuff in here that you can use to improve your alternate picking chops there with that last run. Honestly, looking back on it, I'm not exactly sure how I pulled this off with the alternate picking, because even though that's when my chops were probably at their hottest, considering I was still playing in a lot of metal bands and stuff, it does feature a weird combination of inside and outside picking, which, especially given that time period of my life, should have been something that really messed me up. But I have a few ideas about how I might have done it. So nowadays, whenever I look at licks like this, I can kind of analyze them through the prism of upwards pick slanting and downwards pick slanting, as they talk about in Troy Grady's Cracking the Code series. And I realized that considering that this is a lick that takes 3 notes on the first string, starting with a downstroke, that means that the first string change happens after a down, right? Down, up, down. In order to make it to the G string right here, that means that my hand would have to be in upwards pick slanting kind of position, where the downstrokes go slightly away from the face and the upstrokes go kind of more into the strings. That's kind of your general, upward pick slanting kind of position. And that's what makes that first string change possible. See, that last downstroke goes out and away, which means it's easy to get up and under the G string right there. So basically this becomes complicated because whenever you hit the G string, it's a single upstroke, right? If it's an upstroke that escapes the string, it needs to be a downwards pick slanting upstroke. I gotta be really careful with those terms because I'm like this much dyslexic and it really messes me up. But anyway, that lick would have to go from upwards pick slanting to downwards pick slanting for a single note. Back to upwards pick slanting for that, and that doesn't matter because that doesn't change strings. So you'd have to change pick slants 2 times in that very brief time span of playing that sequence. And considering that at that time especially I was pretty much all a downward pick slanting player, that means that that lick shouldn't really have been very possible for me, especially at those tempos, which are around 16th note triplets at 120-ish BPM. One strategy that I think I might have employed by accident, because this is one of those things that I did forever and didn't even realize I was doing it, is using what we call a swipe. A swipe is a technique that looks kind of like this. I'll try to give you a good camera angle here so you can see what's happening with the pick. Now you're going to see me playing the D string, but watch what happens when I play the very last note. Watch my pick end up under the G string like this. So what you might be able to see from that is that my hand is entirely in the downwards pick slanting position, where the downstrokes go in and the upstrokes go out. Again, typically this position is only good for changing strings after upstrokes or doing down to down economy picking, which this does neither of. So how am I getting under the G? Well, it's kind of like this. If you take the very last note that you downstroke on the D string and just make it blow through both the D and the G. Now I'm not actually striking a note on that G string. It's not being fretted at this time. It's actually just being kind of muted by my soft first finger back here behind it. So after I go through both strings with one simultaneous motion, you don't actually hear the note being hit on the G string. All you hear is the D string note being hit, and suddenly my pick is under the G, which means I can do the upstroke I was looking for. Nowadays when I play it, I don't have to use that strategy because I understand the necessity for the upwards pick slanting and downward pick slanting, but I suspect that's probably how I did it back then. So if you want to practice it that way, try doing this. Instead of thinking of it as like down, up, think of it as down, up, swipe, up. Down, up, swipe, up, okay? Again, that swipe is taking me through both of those strings, getting me under the G, so I'm ready to do that upstroke. So you can practice it by going down, up, swipe, up, down, up, swipe, up, down, up. So you have 2 opportunities to swipe in every one of those sequences. Same thing on the next part of the sequence as well. Now this one right here is the one that should really have chewed me up, because that is an inside string change of a downstroke right here to an upstroke up here on the B. That's my mortal enemy. I hate those inside string changes like that. They drive me crazy, especially back then. But nowadays when I do licks like that, you know, I got to understand that that single downstroke that's happening on high E needs to be an up slanted downstroke. That way it goes out and away from the face of the strings. That way I can crash back into the B string here with an up. And then I end up back there on the high E string again. Whether you choose to go with the precision of the two-way pick slanting approach or just the raw brute force of that swiping technique that we talked about, just be sure that you make all the picking through this purely alternate. No sweeping, no economy picking, nothing like that. It used to be that way to have exactly that, you know, Paul Gilbert machine gun-like tightness and articulation to it. So great thing to work on for your alternate picking. So there you go, guys. That's everything that you need to know about how to play them there rippin' licks. Hopefully that gives you guys some ideas about writing your own shreddy lines and improving your picking and learning the knack and all that other good stuff. And while we're on the subject, it's been way too long since I did a new episode of This Is Why You Suck at Guitar, so let me know in the comment section below what you suck at that you would like to see covered on a future lesson. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for new content coming at you every single week. You guys can follow me on Instagram at Ben Eller Guitars and help support my channel over on my Patreon page at patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. Well guys, it's been fun as always, but it's time to get to work on editing this video down, so I recommend that you guys get away from the computer, pick up your guitar and get to playing. Less clicking, more picking.